Good evening. Welcome to the Hillsborough Township Board of Education meeting of Monday, March 14th, 2016. Roll call, please. Mr. Mahmood.
Sure. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Here.
Ms. Santafante?
Yeah, here.
Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Mr.
I
Cooper?
almost did the same thing, sorry.
Mr. Dutta? Mr. Gillette?
Here.
Mrs. Haas? Mr. Kint? And Mrs. Haley?
Here.
We
Please-
have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Correspondence is as listed on the agenda, and I'm going to turn it over to... Wow.
Well, that'll wake you up. Huh?
Thank you. To Dr. Schiff for the superintendent's report.
There you go. That'll wake you up.
Need to start the night.
Thank you, Madam President. I also would just like to mention that this meeting has been duly noticed in the Hillsborough Beacon as well as the Courier News. I am very excited to announce our Spotlight on Students this evening. We have musicians behind me, and they're from our middle school. And to do the introductions, we have the middle school principal, Dr. Joe Trabulski.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am very pleased to be here tonight along with my colleague, Mr. Michael Callahan, our district supervisor for the Fine and Performing Arts, on behalf of Hillsborough Middle School, to shine a spotlight on our performing arts programs. And this includes all of our bands, orchestras, choirs, and musical theater as well. Over the last 10 years, we have seen such tremendous growth and development in our music and performing arts programs, and for very good reason. Not only do we have a wealth of very talented and dedicated young musicians and singers, performers in our community, but we also recognize and value the importance of music in the educational development of all of our youngsters. Study after study has shown that music education improves early cognitive development, it improves their critical thinking and leadership skills, it fosters self-esteem and the ability to work cooperatively in teams, and it leads to greater engagement in all subjects, with higher graduation rates and overall academic achievement across all measures. When students have the opportunity for high-quality music education as a core element of their program of studies throughout the years, they thrive. Music is an essential element of our lives, of our culture, and certainly of our educational development as well. So, in addition to our traditional music and art rotation for all students at HMS, we have nearly 100 students in our choral music program under the direction of Mrs. Barbara Zabo. This includes our concert choir as well as the select chorale group for which students audition. Many of the youngsters in that group are also part of our 80-member cast and crew of the musical theater program with Mrs. Zabo and Ms. Ferreri, and those students will be performing Seussical the Musical next month at HMS on April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and also on April 8th and 9th as well, so I encourage you to come out for our musical. We also have over 100 students in our strings program under the direction of Mr. Joseph Gall. 45 students make up our concert orchestra, with another 60 in our more advanced symphonic orchestra, and about a quarter of these students have auditioned for and were selected to participate in the chamber ensemble as well. And finally, HMS supports over 250 students in band, including our concert band, symphonic band, the advanced wind ensemble, jazz band, and our select jazz combo. In addition to these groups, we've got a special set of performers that comprise the pit band for our musical as well. So to all of these students, or to have all of these students here tonight would certainly be a bit overwhelming. So I've asked our HMS Jazz Combo, who are on stage tonight, to join us here as representatives of all the instrumental and choral music students. Later this very week, the HMS Jazz Band will join with their peers at the high school for a joint concert, the high school band under the direction of Mr. Randall Haywood, for a combined jazz music concert for grades 7 through 12. That's this Thursday evening at 7 p.m. at the high school auditorium. So to offer a taste of what you'll hear then at that larger performance, I'm pleased to introduce to you tonight the HMS Jazz Combo to perform two pieces, Catch the Wind by Paul Cook and Sing, Sing, Sing by Louis Prima, under the direction of HMS band instructors Mrs. C.G. Coates and Mrs. Nancy Cicciarelli.
Thank you so much, Dr. Trabulski. Good evening,
everyone. My name is C.G. Coates, and on behalf of the HMS Jazz Combo, we are truly honored to be here tonight to represent the amazing work and talents of the students who participate in the HMS Performing Arts. The Jazz Combo is a select ensemble that challenges the individual musicianship of each member. With only one performer on every part, each student musician needs to be proficient, confident, and prepared. We've been rehearsing for over 2 months and are very excited to perform for the first time in public tonight. Our first arrangement, Catch the Wind, features the following soloists: Aaron Waller and George Hart on trumpet, Andrew Hofala on saxophone, and Connor Hampton on piano.
And we'd like to thank you. Wonderful, wonderful job. I'd like to ask the board for a brief 5-minute recess so that the board may express their appreciation to our musicians.
We are in recess.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening once again. This evening I'm pleased to be able to share some exciting news with our Board of Education and our community. The Hillsborough High School Theater finished 2 weekend runs of their spring musical, Into the Woods. The show was absolutely wonderful. I hope you had an opportunity to see it. It was really fantastic. Congratulations to all of the students, staff, members, and parents who donated countless hours of their time to making this show such a great success. Let's give them a big round of applause. Congratulations also goes out to Triangle Elementary School kindergarten student Sahana Patel. Sahana's artwork was selected to be exhibited at the State Youth Art Month exhibit at the State House in Trenton. Sahana's artwork was on exhibit from March 4th to March 11th, 2016 in the Annex Tunnel. Way to go, Sahana. Congratulations to Auten Road Intermediate School's guidance counselor, Mrs. Angela Cleveland. Mrs. Cleveland has been named Somerset County's Counselor of the County by the New Jersey School Counselors Association. Congratulations, Mrs. Cleveland, and thank you for all the work you do with the students of Auten Road. She is the Counselor of the Year for Somerset County. I'm also pleased to announce that Hillsborough Middle School social studies teacher, Mrs. Jennifer Harmson, was recently featured in an article titled, quote, "Finding a Tablet Strategy That Makes Sense," unquote, in the winter of 2016 issue of NEA Today magazine. In the article, Jennifer discusses the efforts and process that Hillsborough Township Public Schools use to determine which technology device would be used in the classrooms. Thank you to Jennifer for representing Hillsborough so well. I want to applaud the efforts of the Hillsborough High School senior, Nicole Levine. Nicole is interning at the Hillsborough Library in the Youth Services Department as part of the Hillsborough High School's REACH program. As part of her internship at the library, Nicole has created the Mastering Mathematics Center. At the Mastering Mathematics Center, Nicole tutored students in grades 1 through 4 in math during 30-minute slots. A registered student would bring his or her textbook and homework and or past math quizzes and tests, and Nicole would work with the student to navigate through the challenges and provide additional problems to review what they worked on during the session. Congratulations to Nicole on a successful program, and thank you for assisting so many Hillsborough Elementary School students. I also wish to applaud the efforts of Hillsborough High School teacher Mike Bober in his Art IA students. The Art IA class is an adaptive class designed to equip special education students with life skills while exposing them to artistic opportunities. Over the course of the last semester, with the guidance of Mr. Bober and independent studies students, the class created the film Darth Phantom, which will make its full premiere on June 8th. The film parodies the Star Wars movies Phantom of the Opera, and Darth Vader assumes a similar role to the Phantom. Thank you, Mr. Bober and the Independent Studies students for leading this remarkable class. Congratulations to all of his Art IA students on creating such an amazing film. This past Sunday, I had the pleasure to observe the Hillsborough High School Team 75 Robo Raiders host the 5th annual Central Jersey Science Fair at Hillsborough Elementary School. This fair, which started as a district event, has grown immensely to include students from districts beyond Hillsborough, including 3 age groups. The other towns include Branchburg, Bridgewater, and Franklin Township. Congratulations to Team 75 and to all the parents and staff who made this event such a wonderful success. Congratulations to all the winners as well. And finally, congratulations to the teachers and students of Team 5J and 5K at Auten Road Intermediate School. The teams challenged each other to collect the most cans of soup to donate to the Hillsborough Township Food Pantry as a Super Bowl contest. Super, S-O-U-P. Okay. During the 2-week contest, the 5J and 5K families collected an astonishing 2,155 cans of soup for charity. Congratulations to Team 5J and 5K and their families for such an amazing result for this very worthwhile cause. Madam President, my next announcement is about the referendum that was held last Tuesday, and I'm so pleased to present the results. We had 1,548 people voted yes to the public question of whether or not we should support 2 construction projects. One was to redo our turf field at the high school. The other was to update the paving and the drainage at our middle school parking lot. And only 475 said no to that. That's over a 3-to-1 margin, yes to no. The overwhelming support is greatly appreciated. We look forward to begin the work shortly. And the board is going to be acting in the next few meetings on various resolutions to move that process forward. The final part of my presentation tonight is to present to the board as well as to the public the tentative budget for 2016-2017. And I'm going to present a PowerPoint slide, hopefully behind me. First, the budget calendar. We start our budget development process in October. And that's when we ask our principals and the other department heads to submit their budget requests with rationale to my office as well as to Mr. Mahmood, our business administrator. In January, we then share those requests after we vet them and after we prioritize them to each of the standing committees that are responsible for various portions of the budget, including the Education, Operations, and Human Resources Committee. On February 18th, we received our state aid. On March 7th, the Committee of the Chairs met to develop the tentative budget, along with cooperation from the Operations Committee. And then today, we will be voting on the tentative budget. And then from mid-March to late April, the board will continue to discuss its priorities and have a finalized budget presented for community consideration at a public hearing on March 25th. So some major funding initiatives that we're doing this year, funding our strategic plan, our emphasis this year in terms of curriculum is on science. We're going to be emphasizing the next generation science standards with supplies, materials, curriculum, writing, and training. We are maintaining all programs in the districts. We're going to be adding additional Chromebooks at grades 3 and 4. We're bringing down actually a program that we have at the high school currently called Effective School Solutions. This is a group of mental health professionals that provides support for students at the high school. We're going to be expanding that successful program at Aris in the middle school next year. We're also expanding our concurrent enrollment offerings. These are high school courses that also count for college credit and are actually transcripted credits at RVCC. We're also going to be introducing sign language, American Sign Language next year. There was a change in the law, and now American Sign Language can be counted as a world language requirement at the high school, and we have some resources that we're dedicating there. We're also going to be maintaining all of our class sizes as we move forward. Our cost drivers are the cost drivers that we typically have. We are a service-oriented industry. Our greatest and most important investments are in our people. So our drivers are our salaries and our healthcare costs. We also have increases costs in special education, transportation as it pertains to special education, and then our curriculum initiative with the next generation science standards. We're managing our costs as best as we can. One big way is passing this referendum. The referendum itself allows for us to receive debt service aid from the state of New Jersey. We anticipate that it could be between $600,000 to $800,000 in debt service aid. That's 40% of the entire projects. We do a lot of shared services and cooperative purchasing, and Mr. Mahmood and his staff do a wonderful job making sure that we bulk purchase and take advantage of all of the shared services and cooperative purchasing arrangements that we have. We also have a revenue generator within our district called the CAP program. This is Children at Play. We anticipate that we will generate a similar amount of revenue that we did last year, which is close to $200,000. Those are revenues that we do not need to tax the community in order to apply to a particular appropriation. We're still reaping the benefits of our transportation efficiencies by starting the middle school at a different time. We just adjusted by a half hour, has saved this district hundreds of thousands of dollars each year as a continuing savings. By bringing in the effective school solutions, as I said on the prior one of the prior slides, that actually will save us money by providing resources within district rather than having to send children out of district. And we, as you know, we've completed a $16 million energy savings improvement project, or an ESIP, that actually has reduced our electrical costs by close to $800,000 annually. And those savings are what is paying for the energy bonds to do all of that construction work. In terms of personnel, it's in three categories. The first category is the additional personnel needs in the current budget that weren't budgeted, and we had plenty. We added a 0.3 Chinese teacher, a half-time speech and special education teacher, a full-time preschool disabled teacher, and 5.5 instructional assistants, full-time equivalents that have assisted our children with special needs. Total increase this year that is going to roll over into next year is 7.8 positions. Our newly budgeted positions for this year, we have a part-time American Sign Language, as I mentioned before, part-time special education teacher, and 1 instructional assistant. So we have 2 additional full-time equivalents from the budget that we're currently budgeting for. And due to enrollment decreases, in particular at the elementary school, we anticipate a decrease of close to 90 children district-wide. We're going to be making some reductions there of 5 elementary classroom teachers. We also will reduce a physical education teacher, that's a special area teacher at the elementary level. We'll be reducing at the high school an English, a math, and 1 social studies teacher. Over a period of 5 years, Hillsborough High School has actually had a decrease in enrollment at the same time that we've been adding staff. So at this point, we cannot continue to afford lowering class sizes. We're going to be maintaining class sizes moving forward. 1 preschool disabled teacher, which is actually in this year's budget, which we won't need for next year, and a 0.5 instructional assistant. So our reductions are about 10.5 positions. When you add the new positions and you net them out to the positions that we're decreasing, it's a decrease of 0.7 positions. And we anticipate that most, if not all, of these reductions will occur through attrition. Our capital expenditures this year coming up are mainly what has been just identified in the referendum. That's the parking lot as well as Hillsborough turf. This is a very important slide behind me. This is our state aid over a period of 9 years or so. So you can see in the year 2009, 2010, our state aid payment was, what we received from Trenton was over $26 million. Over the past 5 straight years, it's been relatively flat and about $1 million less than it was 7 years ago. So that creates great challenges and great pressure on our programs as well as on taxation within the community. Our tax levy is in 2 components. The first is the cap on the actual school tax levy. We're going to 2%, which is an increase of $1.7 million. Plus, we are taking the full health care waiver, which means we are passing along those costs to our taxpayers at the level of $841,400. So what does that mean in terms of the tax rate? If you are Hillsborough, if you live in Hillsborough, the tax levy is increasing by 2.7%. The proposed tax rate, which is the coefficient that you multiply your assessed property value by to determine what your annual school tax is 1.602. The increase in tax rate, which you can define as how much are my taxes increasing, they're increasing by 1.29%. And what does that mean in terms of dollars? that a house assessed in Hillsborough at $350,000, the annual increase is $71. Now, we're not just one community. We also serve the children of Millstone and Millstone Borough. Their tax levy is increasing by 2.97. Their tax rate is 1.698, which you multiply by your assessed value. Actually move the decimal points 2 spaces to the left, and that's how much you pay for the year. The tax rate increase, which is how much are my taxes going up in Millstone, the answer is 2.63%. And a home assessed at $350,000 would increase in Millstone $153 for the year. The chart behind me shows you how much we spend per pupil compared against the average in the state and the average in like districts. The average per pupil expenditure, which is the budgetary cost per pupil, according to last year's data, the most recent data that we have, is a little over $15,000 per kid. We spend a little bit more than $14,000 per kid, significantly less than the state as well as similar district averages. When we look at our administrative cost per pupil, we also spend less than the state as well as similar districts. The state spends about $1,500 per student for administrative expenses. We spend about $1,300 per student, close to $200 less per kid. So what does that mean? Our spending per pupil is $920 less than the state average. If we spent what the state average would be, we would need to increase our revenues, increase the expenditures by close to $6.6 million. And that's if we spent the average, not even above the average. It's an example of frugal spending. So our tentative budget here is broken into 3 different areas: the general fund, grants and entitlements, and debt service. So our general fund, our tentative budget is $119 million and change. And you can see that the grants are 1.76. Our repayment of debt is about 3.2 million, for a total tentative budget of $124,882,721. The percentage increase is 2.93, and that is actually larger than what it actually is, because we have, now that we passed the referendum, we have to take $1.3 million out of the cap reserve, which is a savings account that's off the balance sheet, and then put it into the balance sheet. So we're actually, our expenditures are increased by $1.3 million, but that's just an accounting change from a savings account into a general expenditure account. So to sum it up, some key points. Our focus next year is the next generation science standards while we're continuing our innovations in technology. Our per pupil expenditure continues to be well below state and similar district averages. And our final budget will be approved on Monday, April 25th during a public hearing. And I encourage you to come out and to share with me as well as with the board your thoughts and concerns. So at this point, I'll turn it over to the board for any thoughts or questions. We will have an opportunity for our community to make comments on the tentative budget as well.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes, thank you. I just want to compliment the superintendent and the administration on a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Considering what you were facing, considering where we're at, comparing ourselves to where we've been, and then comparing ourselves to any other district in the area, I'm very proud to say yes for this budget.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Any other comments or questions at this time?
Okay. That's all for my presentation, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Schiff. So we are going to move on right now to approval of minutes. So I need to have a motion to approve the minutes of February 22nd, 2016.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood. No, actually,
Any abstention?
any abstentions right now? Mrs. Boguszewski and Mrs. Santafanti. Okay.
Motion passes.
All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
I can see now. No.
No. All right, on to committee reports right now. I'm going to start with Mr. Gillette
Okay.
for operations.
Thank you, Madam President. So the Operations Committee met on March 10th. We started with Greg Somjen, who's the architect of record for the school district. He came in to talk about a couple of different issues, starting with Woods Road School. There's two issues currently at Woods Road. One is an ongoing issue of multiple building evacuations seem to be happening on a monthly basis, sometimes more, for odors, smells in the school. Every time that we smell anything that might be fire-related, smoke-related, even if it's apparently not, if it smells like it might be, we must call the fire department. So that's why we've had to have evacuations. They've always been benign so far, but we still want to get to the bottom of this. So we took the architect took a look at it. Some of them are the result of projector bulbs and laminators. Those are easy to fix. One area is caused by a unit ventilator that may be beyond the life where we can service it anymore, so we're looking at a plan to remediate that. The other problem at Woods Road School, the other issue, is still, even after many years of looking at this, we still have some water leak problems from the roof in the area of the gym. This is an ongoing problem, and the previous repairs have not done the job. So we have a new architect now. Within the last couple of years, I think this is the first time that he's looking at this. So he's going to have a new solution, and I hope that works, because it hasn't been super expensive so far. But these kind of issues are just they're more than annoying, because there's children there. We want to get that fixed. So we're hopeful, and more than hopeful, really confident that we'll get it fixed with Mr. Somjen. The other thing Mr. Somjen spoke to us about is air conditioning. I think last time I reported, we talked about the survey of he did a survey of 5 elementary schools to see what we can do with air conditioning upgrades. He reported last week that he's also going to now look at Amsterdam Elementary School and Aris, and that he would get a report back to us soon on that. And then finally, two more things actually. We talked about the referendum. As Dr. Schiff reported a few minutes ago, we were very pleased to report the referendum passed. As you know, we asked our architect to go ahead and prepare the engineering drawings and plans for the parking lot ahead of time, in anticipation that it would have to be done sometime, whether the referendum passed or it failed. We would need to have that done. So that is done. So that's ready to go out to bid almost immediately, so we can get that going right as school ends and have it ready for when school begins again in September. So that's good. He did not have the plans done yet for the turf field, but that's a completely different type of project. He's going to have that done right away, and that will go out to bid. And we talked about wanting it completed by around August 1st, that they could get in on it around June 15th or so. And that would be enough time, but it all hinges now on getting those bids back and getting that started. So he's going to get that done. One other thing we talked about is the continuing issue of from the Delaware and Raritan Canal Commission about marking off the area of the wetlands by the lower parking lot of Triangle School. So you have to go back to the Delaware and Raritan Canal Commission in that watershed area for the middle school parking lot. So as I reported last time, when the architect went about the parking lot, they said, hey, we don't know what's going on here with the Triangle Elementary School. Have you marked off those wetlands so that you don't mow the grass there? And he's like, well, okay, we'll do that. And so I reported that has been done, and it's going to be done with permanent stakes and markers in the coming weeks. So that'll be taken care of. We also had, just quickly, we had our purchasing assistant, Ryan Ellis, came in to talk about, as board members know, every year we send out requests for qualifications for a couple of our professionals. So it's on a rotating basis. So typically, if you're, this time we have the auditor and the board attorney, those will come up about every 3 years. So the RFQs for the auditor and board attorney went out. Our auditor has been Tim Vrabel. He was not the lowest, not really bidder, but he didn't have the lowest cost in his proposal. There, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you, Mr. Mahmood, for his proposal. But he matched the lowest after Mr. Mahmood spoke with him, which is fine. So we're very pleased with Mr. Vrabel. So he matched it, so that was good. So we're going to keep him, and operations also recommending that we keep our attorney Fogarty and Hara, which we've been pleased with their work, and so those are on, I think, for tonight, for action items.
Was the RFQ?
No, they're not.
No.
Oh, they're not for tonight?
No, for June.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For the reorg meeting.
Oh, they're for the reorg meeting. I'm sorry. They're for the reorg meeting. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, before, that wasn't the code. I was just going to ask you, what about,
There was an RFQ. There was 8.
and how did they come in?
And we had 8 candidates, 6 submitted quotes, and Fogarty and Hara were no higher than the highest. They were all in the same range. So there was I think 3 that were at his level. There was a couple lower. We had some discussion because you don't have to accept the lowest on this. So we had some discussion about it, and there's other qualifications and other experience that Mr. Mahmood has had and Dr. Schiff has had with other attorneys, and we talked about it, and it's our recommendation that we continue with Fogarty and Hara. We can talk about that again when we
Was there much of a difference between the low and?
No.
Okay, that's all.
like I think it was. I
don't need to know the difference.
no, I can also report that Fogarty and Hara doesn't propose an increase.
No.
No.
They didn't propose an increase. They stay the same. I think the lowest was maybe at 160 an hour. Fogarty and Hara was 175. That's for their partners. If you're not speaking with a partner, with another employee, it's lower than 175.
Thank you.
Sorry
Sorry for the interruption.
No, that's fine. I got a lot. It was a long meeting, so I want to get through
Being
it.
in the,
No, that's good.
no offense to HR.
No. Let's see. We talked about the tentative budget that was presented by Dr. Schiff today. And we talked about, I think that's it. I went over everything right. Was there anything you guys want to mention?
Competitive bidding.
Yeah, for
the
custodial management.
Pritchard Industries, the competitive bidding that we're going to do.
Oh, okay, so we're going to do, our buildings and grounds management is from an outside company called Pritchard right now. So every year or so.
This one was 3 years.
Oh, in 3 years, okay. In 3 years, we're gonna go out for a
Competitive bid.
competitive bidding process with maybe some different requirements and specifications in it for the management services. So what does the management service do? They provide 2 employees, the supervisor and an assistant.
Yes.
They also there's also a contract to provide all the consumables.
Yes.
Just like paper products,
Yeah.
the cleaning supplies, the small cleaning equipment,
Yeah.
and larger equipment, I guess.
Yeah.
And all the things, the wax and the things, it's all part of the package. So we're going to go out and see if we get some other bids on that.
Yes.
Is that the last thing?
That was it.
All right, because I jumped around a little bit, so I didn't.
that was good.
But I think that's all we had. I'll entertain questions. I know I talk fast. Judy's giving me a look the entire time I'm talking, so I know she's got a lot. Yeah, it's never good though. All right, so that's all we had.
Do we have any questions?
I will, but if you want to go on to personnel first, you can.
We don't have any.
We don't have
other reports.
anything else.
meets tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think, we met a week early because we wanted to meet before, we met a week early, we wanted to meet before the tentative budget. So we moved our meeting up a week. That's why I've got a report.
Yeah, in that case, I do have.
Yeah, go ahead, let's hear it.
I'd like to understand our process in reviewing RFPs, because if, as you say, in the case of the audit situation, we're able to ask for a match, and then in the legal situation, you're saying we don't need to take the lowest bidder.
Right.
And frankly, on the legal side, I really don't think it matters very much what the amount of money is that people charge per hour, because they could always add additional hours. Or, more familiarly, they could have a junior associate work on something and then have a senior associate work on something. Is there any point in interviewing any of these other companies that go to the trouble of providing an RFP for our work?
Well, let me first start by saying the exact point that you brought up, we did speak about at committee, that it's really how you feel the overall billing is going. And
I
we
feel it
that,
has overall gone up.
Yeah, it has gone up. It's gone up commensurate with our tremendous caseload of issues that I've never seen in my 9 years on here. This is just, it's really through the roof. We generally will have a drawdown account starting at $120,000, but this will be now the second year in a row that for sure we're going to be more like in the $150,000 range. But it's not because they're billing, they haven't increased their hourly. It's just, there's just more cases. That's been my experience from looking at the bills every month. There's more cases. The other thing I'm going to let Mr. Mahmood speak to, the other question, do you remember what it was?
Yeah, sure. The process, Mrs. Haas, for the RFQ is, it's not an RFP, it's an RFQ, request for qualifications. There is, in the accountability regulations, there is a requirement for the board to be competitive in nature. So a request for qualifications gives the board the opportunity not only to be competitive, we have invited, for example, the architects, when we were seeking architects at the last time, we did invite the architects in that we felt were finalists, and we did interview those architects, and the board selected this particular architect. So there is a process that the board, if they wish to certainly interview based on the RFQs, they're welcome to do so. The other thing that we do, Mrs. Haas, is we have a county survey that we are required, not required, but the county does a survey of all the districts in our county to make sure that we are sort of in the same ballpark as other districts in our county. And Hillsborough has always, we can share this survey with the board, Hillsborough has always been below costs as far as all of our professional services, but we can certainly share that with the board as well.
I think that would be helpful. I also think it would be very nice for the board to be informed when there are legal cases against the district. In most cases, it's the board that's named, and we should be advised about that. I'd also like to understand if there's some sort of reason why all of a sudden we're getting hit with all these lawsuits. I mean, if there's been this inordinate increase, which I've noticed on a monthly basis in our legal costs, why?
That's for Dr. Schiff.
Yeah, may I just address one thing that when I'm taking a look at our legal accounts and saying, are we way out, spending far too much or far too little? I rely upon an analysis that the Department of Education does called the Comparative Spending Guide, which looks at how we're spending per pupil on our legal services compared to all of the other districts within our area. We have 103. In fact, I'll put it on the board right now so you can see it. We have. Not sure if you can see it that easily, but our 14-15 budget was $18 per pupil, and that's 11th out of 103. And 103 are similar districts. Those are districts that are about as large as we are as a K-12. So I would start to worry if that number started to creep up into the 20, 30, 40, 50 range, where we're spending far, far below average on our legal services as a cost per pupil estimation. So although it has increased, it still seems like, relatively speaking, our district isn't spending exorbitantly on legal services. In fact, when we compare ourselves to similar districts, we're actually spending a lot less than most districts are. And this is from the Comparative Spending Guide that's available on the Department of Ed website.
Well, with all due respect, and I mean that, I really don't care what other districts are spending on legal expenses. Legal expenses are non-educational expenses. And quite honestly, I don't prioritize that. And honestly, I compare ourselves to ourselves. And in the past, we have not spent this kind of money on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, or any other kind of basis. And I'd like to understand what's different and what's causing this, because there are policies in regard to legal expenditures. And there might have been a change in policy where things that wouldn't have been litigated in the past are now being litigated, and maybe that needs to be looked into. I only care what our district is doing.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I think it's important if expenses are starting to increase just based upon our expenditures that we look at that as well. What we can do, if it's all right with Mr. Gillette, is to refer it to operations, and we could do a legal overview and kind of just do a repeat of what we did last year. I think about it this time on what are the major cases and what are the areas in terms of construction litigation, personnel, special services, other things that we can discuss and talk about.
Thank you, Dr. Schiff. I think that would be a good idea. We have done that before. So in the past, and I don't mean the recent past, maybe a few years ago now, I have on more than one occasion suggested that when the legal bills for any particular case reach a certain threshold, then maybe it's time to inform the board, to speak directly to Judy's concern. But we never were able to get together as a board or administration to define what that would be. I mean, I could just throw it in. I could say, if some single case hits $10,000 in legal costs, I think I'd like to know. But then, Dr. Schiff might say, well, that's nothing, or that's, we can't define it by a number like that. So I think that's why we left the last discussion.
Yeah.
Was you were somewhat at some hesitation, I believe, if I not put words in your mouth, about defining it by a number. But then if you don't want to use a number, then just interesting, different cases or something that are costing a lot of money, and put whatever dollar amount on it that you'd like.
Well, I think to Mrs. Haas's point, the board just needs to be aware, at the very least, about what are the legal expenses and what are the major cost drivers there. So we'd be happy to provide that information.
Question. I think based on what Judy's asked for in the past, when you look at it, it's not just cases, it's things that maybe the county, we can use through our other resources. So policies and stuff, if we send them to review, is there a way to look at the money we're spending on lawyer fees for cases versus what we're just spending for like administrative policy stuff?
Yeah,
right?
we could definitely have that
and then
conversation.
Just see the
Absolutely.
resources, and that's it.
Yep.
Okay, we'll look at it. Any other questions?
Or there might be some way for those kinds of questions, thank you, Dina, for reminding me, administrative questions as well as policy questions. Those things could possibly be rounded into a number per month, X amount of dollars per month for unlimited questions about operational matters. Litigation is harder to control.
Yeah. We do utilize Strauss Esme for questions regarding policy, and they do have a legal department. So rarely do we actually have Fogarty and Hara actually do that type of legal work for us. But it's a good conversation to have, to kind of walk through it and to make sure that the board is at the very least aware. If not, there may be other things that we could be doing differently and better.
More?
Is that all?
Probably do. I'll think of it.
Anything else?
You're still holding the mics.
Anything else? Come on, give me with
Your
another.
committee meet?
Not well. No, my committee did not meet.
Nobody else met. Oh, we also had committee of the chairs.
We had I was going to get to that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm just trying to close this discussion out because Mrs. Haas is still holding the microphone.
Move on.
All right. And there was a committee of the chairs in lieu of governance on Monday, I believe, right?
Yes.
Dr. Schiff?
Yes.
So, and
Single agenda item, just the tentative budget.
Yep.
Budget.
So, no education, no HR, so I think we're ready to move on now. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to open up the floor right now to public input on the 2016-2017 budget. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, sir.
Thomas O'Billy, 9 Upper Neshannock Court. Good evening, everybody. I was just wondering, with the passage of the referendum the other day, the estimated cost for increase in tax, the $71 for Hillsborough residents and $153 for the Millstone residents, if there was any way or a hope that that could come down, because taxes go up every year for costs that you cannot control, obviously, but I was just wondering if there was a hope to possibly bring those estimates down for both Hillsborough and Millstone residents.
Well, in actuality, passing the referendum actually allowed us to receive, and we'll see what the actual number is, and we had the conversation, I think, last month about it, that right now it's estimated between $600,000 and $800,000. So those are expenses that we don't need to tax the community for. That is coming directly from the state. So that's very important that we pass this. The board will decide what the level of taxation is. Currently, the tentative budget that's before them for consideration raises the taxes by, as you said, $71 for a homeowner whose home is assessed at $350,000. And what's very difficult, frankly, is with state aid being flat or close to flat. Our state aid increase was 0.4%. 0.4. So that also puts additional pressure on taxation as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Thomas. Is this specifically about the budget, Ms. Sladak? Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Marissa Sladak at 681 Dover Court. And this part of what I'd like to talk to you about is definitely about budget. I'm looking at the special education budget. And I'm coming forward once again to ask where the co-teaching is for kindergarten through third grade. As you know, Hillsborough had been named in a least restrictive environment lawsuit, and it was the obligation of the district to provide a continuum of services for our special education students. By denying the right for co-teaching at the kindergarten through second grade level, that is denying their right for a continuum of services. I'm also looking and wondering where the additional supports are for therapists, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy. I'm told that the amount of therapists is driven by the amount of students within the district receiving those services. It's of my opinion that perhaps it's a little skewed, and the amount of kids receiving the service is based on the amount of therapists. And my belief is that that's happening more specifically because I have a kid who's being denied a service that I'm told by the therapist, I just don't have time to put them in. So to me, that's based on some of the personal experience. I'm also looking, and within the budget that was suggested, I didn't see any numbers for special education besides the IDEA numbers that were put in. I'm told that the numbers for this budget are increased partially due to special education budget. And I am questioning this because there is state aid that the special education department receives to vet their budget. I'm questioning how taxpayers are affected by this when this is money that is free given to the district to run their special education department. I'm also questioning the bringing back of the students within the district. And a lot of the feedback that I'm hearing from parents are things like, well, we wouldn't be needing to go out of district if the programs were more quality programs, or if we had more speech, more OT, more PT within the district. This is feedback that I'm hearing from other parents, not just feedback that I'm giving to you. And more specifically, I also do question the amount of legal services that are spent within the special education department because parents do talk. And when parents do need to file for mediations or do processes, parents do talk and share and complain that they're having to do this again. And I can tell you from experience that it's increasing. So I do question that part of the budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I just address something just very quickly? We will be publishing the user-friendly budget, which will give a lot more detail. We presented to the Operations Committee at their last meeting a detailed analysis of special education spending over the past, 5 years or so? I think it was about that. Maybe at the Committee of the Chairs?
Committee chairs.
Okay. And it illustrated how much all-in special education costs are. And the range is about $26 million. And what you said at the podium, I wish it was right, that the state is offsetting all of these costs. Unfortunately, they're not. Our state aid increase was 0.4%. It was a fraction of what the entire state budget went up, which is over 3%. That's number one. Number two, we receive aid from the state that's entitled extraordinary aid for students who the cost to educate those students is in excess of $40,000. Every district gets that, and you get a percentage above it, either 90 or 80 some percent, depending upon whether it's out of district or in district. The state this past year, fiscal year 15, funded extraordinary aid at 56%. 56%. 44% that we should have received in extraordinary aid, we didn't receive. And that's a decrease from the year before, which was slightly over 60%. So state aid for special education services hasn't been going up. It's actually, reality has been going down. That needs to change because we should educate all children, and we must educate all children regardless of their special needs, their talents, whatever. It shouldn't be that we educate some children at the expense of others. That is not what public education is all about. But unfortunately, the state is making it very, very difficult to meet all of the demands within the district. So we had one community member come up and say we're spending too much, another community member come up and say we're spending too little. We're trying to find the right balance for the community, and I'm proud of this budget that we're able to bring to this community a budget that is that's a reasonable increase of $71 for a home that's assessed at $350,000. Just wanted to make that point, Mrs. Slavic.
And I can actually say, on behalf of Dr. Schiff as well, we've had several meetings with our legislators in Trenton trying to hammer that point across because it's getting to the point where there's going to be some even more difficult conversations coming down the pike that no one really wants to have. So, but thank you very much, both of you, for your comments. I appreciate that. So on to the action agenda. We're going to move on. Sorry, sir. I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. Yeah. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Doug Bayless, resident of Hillsborough. From the 5-year planning sessions you've been having, I know there's a lot of interest in a new high school as well as full-day kindergarten. And I didn't see details of a demographic study that's going to be done. Are there plans to include one in the budget?
Thank you for asking the question. Actually, at our next meeting or the meeting after, our facilitator, Charles Ivory, is going to come back to our board and begin facilitating our next level of work with it. You're right that our stakeholder groups identified a new high school redesign, early childhood investments, including full-day K and pre-K, those as areas that are of great interest. The board's now going to be going through a process of evaluating what to study next, and anything that's big like that, those are big items, require time to study, to look at best practices, to evaluate space, enrollment, costs, of course, all of that, so that the board members can make an informed decision about what to implement and what not to implement. That'll be coming shortly.
Okay. And then will the budget be finalized by the end of April? Is that the goal?
I'm sorry, can you speak into the mic?
The budget, will that be finalized by the end of April? And
It has to be.
Okay, it has to be. And then one final question, is the plan for teachers' contracts to be approved by then as well, to be finalized?
The teacher's contract, the HEA, they're currently in negotiations as we speak, so the answer is we don't know. Hopefully there'll be settlement in a reasonable amount of time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more comments on the floor on the budget? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move on to comments from the public, specifically for new business, which means not pertaining to this agenda. Oh.
Hi. My name is Danielle Greco. I live at 17 Fox Hill Lane. And last year I stood at the same podium and I spoke out very passionately against the park And while my comments didn't change the course of state testing, I felt that the board listened very respectfully, and I was very satisfied with the way my son was treated in our refusal of the park. He was allowed to sit quietly and read in the library.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you get closer to the microphone? It's very difficult to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Thank you, Kaz.
All right, sorry. So last year, I felt that my comments about the park were received respectfully, and I was very happy with the way my son was treated. He was allowed to read quietly in the library, and it went smoothly. I had no plans to come here and speak about the park because I was satisfied with my son's experience. However, today something happened that changed my experience with Hillsborough Township and the way they're handling the park. On March 8th, I sent an email to Dr. Schiff and Ms. Eckstein that stated, please accept this email as my refusal to allow my son, Luke Nealon, as my official refusal to allow my son, Luke Nealon, to participate in the park and any practice tests leading up to the park. The next day, March 9th, I received an email from Ms. Eckstein that said she understood and the district was finalizing arrangements. I'd be made aware as soon as possible. As of this morning, I hadn't heard anything, and I know the practice test is Wednesday. I emailed again, and after 5 o'clock today, I received an email that included a link to a Google Doc. And I don't know if you're all aware of the park refusal form that was sent out. In this refusal form, it says, in order to comply with your request, you must complete and submit this form with the required information as soon as possible. Without completion of this form, your refusal will not be valid. This angered me because perhaps my original email was somehow misconstrued. It was somehow interpreted as a request, and it was in no way a request, it was a refusal. I refuse for my son to take the park and any practice test affiliated with it. And I also refuse to fill out this form. This form is district treated. It's not required by the state or the Department of Education. And to me, this form comes across as a bully tactic. By receiving this after 5 o'clock on the day when there's a Board of Education meeting, to me it sends the message that you were hoping parents wouldn't get it. It's like putting out an important news item on a Friday afternoon, hoping that nobody will notice it. So that was the first thing that upset me. Second, I was supposed to click yes next to a bunch of facts taken out of context. And to me, it didn't seem like these facts were put there to educate me, but to rather bully me into believing that I had to have my child take this test. This form also asks parents to check off that I understand my child will need to take this test to graduate high school. My child's in 4th grade. I'm refusing for this year. I'm not refusing for 2024. And in the current educational climate, both at the state and the national level, it's very likely that graduation requirements will change by 2024. So I should not have to check that off in order for my son to refuse the park. I'm asking that the district stop sending this letter out to people. A simple letter of refusal should do. And now I'm saying both publicly to the administration and to the board, since my email was somehow not enough, that I refuse for my son to take the park exam. You will not get this doc returned from me, and you are not to have my son sit for this test.
Just a couple of words on park. We had, I think it was 4 schools? Yeah, 4 schools in the district failed to meet our participation rate. And as a result of that, the Department of Education is requiring any school district, including each school individually, to complete corrective action plans. And those corrective action plans are approved by the county superintendent of schools, and we have to go through a process. It's important that families understand that at the federal level, the law is clear that failure to meet the 95% participation rate may jeopardize federal funds coming into the state, which may jeopardize funds coming into the district. It didn't happen last year, and I'm so happy it didn't happen last year. I hope it doesn't happen this year coming up. I do, but we are required to go through these steps in order to provide the type of corrective action that the State Department of Ed is requiring. I share some of your frustration, honestly, about it, because there is, we want, when we do testing of kids, we want that information to be valuable. We want it to help us to inform instruction. We want it as parents to understand kind of how well our kid is doing relative to kids outside of Hillsborough. All of that's good information. But this past year, we had huge amounts of kids that didn't take the test across the entire state. Never happened before. I hope we have less refusals. I honestly hope. I respect the parent's decision to choose not to. But the State Department of Education is being very clear to local districts that they want the participation rate up. I hope it does come up, frankly. But, we'll see. We'll see what's going on. But it was never an attempt to bully. It was an attempt to educate.
Hi there.
No.
Hi. I'm Jean Trujillo. Last name is Trujillo for the minutes. I live at 5 Eric Court in Hillsborough, and I'm here tonight to ask if you're aware of the notice of hearing BA-15-18 that will be held at the Hillsborough Board of Adjustment this Wednesday, March 16th at 7:30 regarding the Verizon Wireless's proposal to install a telecommunications monopole at the property owned by Hillsborough Volunteer Fire Company Number 3. The application requests 7 variances and/or waivers from current zoning code, including a variance for setback from a public school, which in this case is my children's school, Woods Road Elementary School. The town planner that I visited today told me that the applicant was only legally required to post a notice in the Hillsborough Beacon and notify property owners that are within 200 feet of the property. So I don't understand how the community can inform itself of a variance request when they aren't looking for it. The proposed structure is 1,428 feet from Woods Road School, and the zoning requirement is a minimum setback of 2,000 feet from a public school. This proposal affects all Woods Road students and staff, yet word spreads slowly. Only those who live near the firehouse are even aware that this telecommunications monopole is being proposed. So Dr. Schiff and the Board of Education, I noticed that in the recent referendum you were able to publicize that through your electronics newsletter, and I'm hoping that you'll do the same to spread information and share information with the Hillsborough community about this proposal. I would love to hear your comments on this. Thank you.
Yes, I am aware of that, but we're not the governing body that's responsible for communicating any type of building, ordinance changes, other type of construction matters. I don't know which is would it be the planning board or the
Board of Adjustment?
The Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustments. That's really where you need to take your comment.
And I have, sorry, go ahead, Mr. Cooper.
Can I just ask a quick question on that?
Sure.
I mean, are we an interested party? Are we being represented there? Because it is asking for a variance affecting our school.
No.
The answer is I don't believe so.
We have not been contacted.
We have not been formally contacted.
I understand that the town planner said that the school was not required to be formally contacted. However, your staff is in the building that is zoned for 2,000 feet from a cell tower. I would expect that. I assume that the Board of Education would be interested. Whether they can actually comment on it, I would hope that you would look into it.
Again, there are other governing bodies that are responsible for making determinations about what type of building, construction, other things are responsible for. We're in the business of educating the children. They're in the business of making determinations whether or not to open up a variance on different activity that is built upon those properties.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not there.
Okay.
Can I comment?
Good evening.
Sorry, Mr.
I'm not an expert on cell towers. However, I would think that it is in our interest to protect the health and safety of our children. And I do think that there's a serious gap here. If people only need to be notified who live within 200 feet of a particular area, that's a very limited population in most of our town. And if the ordinance has the sense to talk about this particular use not being within 2,000 feet of a school, and it is 2,000 feet from a school, I do think we have a role in commenting on it, researching it, and making sure that it's in the best interest of our kids. I'm not even sure where such a notice would go. If a school is within a notification unit, would it be the Woods Road School that would get noticed, or would it be the district? And if it were the district or the Woods Road School, what would we do with that notice? What would we do
Well,
with that
if we
notice?
receive it, just in terms of process, we would then discuss it in operations and have this kind of a discussion in operations. If it's the board's will to have that discussion, absolutely, we can have that discussion. I'd be more than happy to discuss with our friends at the township about it, if that's the will of the board.
This is happening in 2 days.
I was going to say it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's this Wednesday.
Right.
Yeah.
It's up to the board.
I just got to say that I understand that there's a little bit of a disconnect in the ordinance that says, or a notification that says, 200 feet for a variance that affects out to 2,000 feet. So I understand the public's, frustration about that. But as Dr. Shipp said, I think that's something that you have to go to the Township Committee and tell them, whatever this ordinance doesn't seem right, it's disconnected, and see if they'll put something wider. I don't know that we can do anything about it. Well, we're talking about it now, and Jean can write about it in the paper, and not really, because it's 2 days, right? So you can't.
The meeting's Wednesday night.
Well, I don't know what
But
you can do.
again, the notification
You can put it on his
wasn't my
website,
issue.
so those 62 people can see it.
The notification is just, the notification issue is just, the law. But if the law is also 2,000 feet from a school, should we not be concerned about it? I don't know the answer to that question, but there should have been an opportunity to research and perhaps prepare comments. I don't get that.
We have elected Township Committee. We have appointed boards that are looking for the interests of the public, including, in this case, the school and the people that work there, the people the children that go to school there, the parents. So on this case, I think they're going to know that the school is within 2,000 feet, and they're going to protect my interests. I'm going to have to hope that they protect my interests. I think they will.
And the primary organization for protecting the interests of the schools is?
In this case, I think the elected officials of the town and their appointed boards, in this case.
Respectfully disagree.
Okay.
I think that's our responsibility.
Well,
Can I, just real quick, can I bring up a point? I mean, the law is 2,000 feet within the school district, 200 feet for residents. They're notifying the residents within 200 feet. Wouldn't it make sense that the variance is affecting a school? Don't they have to give notice? I mean, judging from the legal side, I would think that there had to be notice either directly to the school or to the school board.
Can I answer this, since I've been a member of a planning board for many years?
Yes.
Actually, you know what?
Can I answer this,
We-
please?
No,
we shouldn't be
we're-
discussing.
we're
I
actually
just want to
gonna-
answer his
Steve,
question
no.
so that
No,
he's
Steve,
educated.
Right now, your job as a board member, not as a representative of the township.
No, I know, but I
No,
want
but
to educate him.
for legal purposes right now, we're gonna refrain from further comment,
Okay.
okay?
I was that close to keeping my mouth shut. Sorry, Jordan, Doctor,
So,
that close.
Good, Jen.
that ends that discussion for the moment.
Thank you.
Mr. Goodhue?
That close.
Good evening. Henry Goodhue, Hillsborough Education Association, 16 Laurel Drive. Would like to ask for clarification on item C4, the proposed resolution for travel-related expenses, in terms of who will be impacted by that and how the limits were set.
All right, Mr. Goodhue?
How are you?
Good, thank you. That is a replica number that we use every year with the travel limits. We do not come close to that. That affects all staff in the district. We have never exceeded that dollar amount. It's something that's required by accountability regulations. As a matter of fact, as a district-wide, we've always been way below that threshold. We are required by law to put that resolution in. That's why we put it in, but I can assure you that the district has not come close to exceeding that number.
Are you speaking of the threshold of 105,000 or 150 per staff?
They go together. So
Okay.
we have not exceeded any of the thresholds.
Is the 150 per staff aggregate, the average across the district, or is it actually per staff?
Is it per person per event?
Is it an
That's what I'm trying to
aggregate?
figure
Is
out.
It's an aggregate.
Okay. And does that affect administration, board members, staff members, everyone alike? or is
Everybody.
it- So board is governed by this as well as administration?
Yeah. By the way, the board doesn't really go anywhere. They don't really
I
go
get to
anywhere.
travel?
I didn't get any.
When can I travel to? Let me know.
I wish I got some.
Teachers ask the same question.
I've never submitted a receipt since I've been on this board.
Well, thank you.
Am I missing out on some party or something?
You're missing nothing.
You get worse.
Good evening. I'm back. My name is Jennifer Hobson, and I am a third grade teacher and proud resident of Hillsborough community. And for the past 5 years, I have volunteered my time to organize and teach girls to love themselves and value exercise through the Elementary I Run program. Myself, along with 4 other elementary schools here in town, run the program. And almost 2 years ago, I came before the board and asked for this club to be acknowledged and have teachers get a stipend for the club, like many of those who run similar programs at Aris, the middle school, and the high school. Tonight, I'm so happy. I want to thank you for acknowledging the hard work and recognizing this club. Special shout out to Dr. Antunes for answering my endless amount of emails, which she always did, without complaint. And we're now fully insured and ready for a great season, and for that, we're really grateful. Moving forward, we hope that teachers will further get recognized for the endless hours that they dedicate to enriching the lives of the Hillsborough students. We are thrilled with this step in the right direction, and I look forward to thanking you all once again when future ones are taken. As always, I welcome you to email me with club times so you can join us on a fitness walk or a run and see the wonderful program that I run at Hillsborough Elementary School and that the other elementary school coaches run in the district as well. So thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Mary Fries, and I live at 10 Deer Path. I'm in complete agreement with the previous parent regarding all of her statements about the park testing and the form that parents are being asked.
The microphone, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm in complete agreement with the previous parent regarding all of her statements about the park and the form that they're asking parents to fill out. I'm also asking that the district discontinue sending this form out. It's our parental right to refuse these exams, and we should not be made to fill out this form. I'm a New York public school teacher of 22 years in New York, and I just moved to New Jersey this fall, so new experience with Hillsborough. Last year, the opt-out refusal movement grew to over 220,000 students opting out in New York. I hope that New Jersey will follow. The letter from Ms. Eichstein states that our first experience with a park assessment was a seamless one for students who participated. Maybe this was true for administration of the test, but how can teachers use the results of these tests when they were returned almost 8 months after the students took the tests? Again, I'm asking that the district does not send out that acknowledgement form. I think it's wrong, and I think that they should just accept the parents' refusal forms.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm back. Marissa Sladek, 681 Dover Court. I will start, I guess, piggybacking on what everybody else has said. I also refused the park test for my twins. I'm looking at the same form, and what I'm looking at is, I guess, confusion. Because the law states that the only piece of communication that a district needs to receive in order for a refusal is an email or a letter from a parent stating their refusal. And I've done a little bit of digging after I did very, very nervously fill this Google form out, and I learned that it's not required. Not only did I learn that it's not a requirement, but I looked at the form a little bit more, And within some of the questions, it does state, and Dr. Schiff, you had said that the district could lose monies if they have a certain amount of refusals. According to my information, that's false. So I'm questioning how that information can be shared to parents when it's my understanding through the current legislation that districts will not lose money for the amount of refusals that they have. I'm also looking at the form, and it did say...
I just want to correct the record, Mrs. Slack. The legislation that you're referring to is state aid from Trenton. The state cannot require the federal government to fully fund its block grants to the states. I agree with you that the law is very clear that state aid coming into local districts by law cannot be reduced because of participation rates. That law does not impact federal funding. Our district receives over $1 million of federal funding through this. So that's specifically what I'm talking about. It's the block grants for federal funding, most specifically for our titles, which are funds that are set aside for children that are at risk. We don't wish to lose any of that. No district wishes to lose any of that. The state cannot create a law that says that the federal government cannot withhold state aid for low participation rate. They can make a federal law for that, and I would encourage all of us to contact our legislators to try to do that, to protect. But the law that you're referring to is the state funding law, not the federal law.
Yeah, according to the website Save Our Schools, it says that the district cannot lose any funding for the refusal.
Through state aid, that's correct, but not through the federal grants.
So then I'm looking at this more, and this is where I question. It's saying that I'm told that this will also be used for placement decisions for children. And this is why I'm refusing this test. The accommodations that our children can receive when they have IEPs are not the same accommodations that they can receive within an IEP situation. So to me, it's setting our kids up for failure. And so when we're setting our kids up for failure and you're using that information for placement decision and the information doesn't get to you for 8 months, I don't know how you can use that information for a placement decision. I'm looking at this as a bullying tactic, and it's intimidating. I filled the forms out, very, very intimidated, and then I did my research. And my question and my concern is that parents who aren't educated won't know what to do, and that they're going to back off and allow their children to take this test. I disagree, and I think that something needs done to communicate to parents that their right for refusal is a valid one and should be accepted with that first piece of communication, which was the letter stating, I refuse this test for my child. So that's the first piece that I'd like to discuss. Next, I'm looking at the independent evaluation policy, and I've come to you multiple times about this. The caps are so low on this evaluation policy that you can't get an evaluation. And I've brought this concern up multiple times before. I can tell you from past experience that when the district filed mediation on my husband and I to not perform evaluations on not just one child, but 2 children, so you're talking twice the legal fees because the district felt that their evaluations were appropriate, I was given a list and told you must choose off of this list, which is against the law. I'm allowed to choose any person I want on this state list. The list that was provided for me had a neuropsych that their rate was $3,500. The cap that you've done is $2,100. So the district gave me a list of people to use that was even above their cap. I'm questioning how that was even feasible. How can you give me a group of people above your own price point? I looked, and it looks as if the majority of evaluators are above the price point within this cap. And I'm questioning whether some of the higher legal fees are a result of the district filing mediations to stop parents or to stop this based on this evaluation policy. My last piece of business is about dyslexia, I've got two more. Dyslexia policy. I thank those educators and school board members who came to the Learning Ally presentation last week. I'm asking that based on your experiences to revisit the dyslexia policy, and I challenge the district to go above and beyond what the state's law states, what it's giving and asking. Don't do just the minimum. Help our kids to actually be visual readers, not ear readers. I can tell you, I walked out of there very, very frustrated. I'm a mom of 2 kids with dyslexia, and all 3 of my younger kids have something called dysgraphia. I wanted to cry in that presentation. I can't imagine what my kids go through on a daily basis, knowing that they have to do every single day at every single minute of their life what I only had to do within a 5 to 10 minute period of time. Lastly, I'm coming about the allergy policy. The policy was created, and within it, it said that there would be a 3-day minimum for communication within any food-related activity for parents. We received on Friday a piece of communication saying that there would be, last Friday, for a new, I guess, food policy or a new food tasting for Nutrition Week, and it didn't quite give all of the information on it. It didn't say what the foods were for one of the schools my kids are in, and it gave not a 3-day time period. I happen to have a child with an allergy that was affected by this. And I had to communicate with multiple different people, but it seems as if the policy wasn't enforced because this was given on a Friday for an activity that was happening on Monday. It would be my understanding that we would have received more than a weekend's notice for an event Friday afternoon that was happening on Monday morning. And I'm asking if that policy can be revisited and communication can be more clear for parents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more comments from the public at this time? Any comments from the board at this time?
Just real quick, for Dr. Schiff, can you just make it clear for me, maybe for the public also, the Google Doc form that was mentioned a couple of times tonight from the public, is that part of the remediation required by the state for falling below the participation rate for the park last year? Not that they wrote the form or anything, but
they don't have specifics that they're doing, but we in good faith are trying to address some of the issues that the county office has brought to Hillsborough, as well as so many other districts across the state. So
they didn't write the form for us, but this is part of our effort that we're going to show at some point to the county superintendent that, look, we're doing something and this is what we're doing.
Yep.
Okay,
Absolutely.
It's part of a plan. Okay, I just want to
that along with presentations, along with additional communications, along with encouragement. These are very clearly directed to districts that had greater than a 95 or less than a 95% participation rate.
Okay. Just want to make it
Okay. So move on to the action agenda.
All right.
Dr. Schiff.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions underneath the area of education: to approve travel and related expenses, the HIB investigation list, overnight field trips, field trip destinations, IDA carryover, curriculum writing, and I believe we may have another addendum.
No, those are both under.
Those are both under operations?
No,
Human resources. Okay. So that's what I have for education.
Okay, can I have a motion to please approve items A1 through A6 of the action agenda?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call please, Mr. Mahmood.
Sure.
Jen,
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
This is based on tonight's meeting, right, the HIB?
No.
No.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
No, that's going to be on the
We
addendum
have a
for the HR.
separate addendum coming up.
Okay, I'm just clarifying, just want
Yep.
to make
Yeah.
sure.
So, any comments at this time? Okay. Seeing none, roll call please, Mr. Mahmood.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Dr. Schiff?
I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions that I'm making under the area of human resources. To approve the resignation is listed, revised leaves of absences, long-term substitutes, co-curricular advisors, contract changes, leaves of absences, and the appointments of a teacher, long-term substitute, speech therapist, payroll, benefits assistant, coaches, co-curricular advisors, substitutes, mentors, buddies, field placements, and I-run clubs and coaches. Approve of extra period coverage as well as sixth period coverage and group changes. We also have we have one.
Put the other under operations.
Okay. And we have another addendum that you have on your seat. This is addendum
B14.
B14, and the motion reads, approve resolution to suspend with pay a district staff member whose name is on file in the superintendent's office effective March 14th, 2016.
Okay, can I have a motion to please approve items B1 through B14 of the action agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second? Second. Any discussion, please? Mrs. Haas?
I would like to separate out 741.
Okay, so do we have any other comments at this time? Any other separations? No? Okay, so we are going to be voting on items B1 through B.73.1 and then B7.5 through B14. Okay, roll call please, Mr. Mahmood.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen? Yes. Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve item B7.4.1 of the action agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, please? Mrs. Haas?
Yes. I would like some clarifications on a number of things. First, I'd like to make a statement that when there are new administrative hires being proposed for the business office that are confidential and unaffiliated position, I think the board should receive a copy of the resume of the individual proposed. My second comment is that this position is a combination of two positions that were approved at our last reorganization of a payroll clerk and a health benefits clerk. And somehow that position has become a payroll and health benefits assistant. I don't recall this board ever approving a combined job description for this position, but I'd also like to point out that the person in charge of the payroll office is also called a payroll assistant. And when you're putting somebody in as a payroll and health benefits assistant, it would presume that they're at a higher level than the person who's just the payroll assistant. So I have a huge problem with that, and I don't think that's correct. I also think that we had a situation where a health benefits clerk was working 20 hours a week, and a payroll clerk was working 8 hours per week, and neither of them received health benefits. And now you have this position, which is about $20,000 higher than the combined two salaries that the part-timers were making, and also gets a health benefit package. And honestly, there was a previous person who was a part-time person who was placed in this position, I believe, last November. And come February, they're gone, and we're refilling this position. So I seriously think in terms of administrative process that it might have been valuable to see whether or not there were issues with combining the positions. And I really don't understand why we need to pay this kind of salary and benefits for a position that was handled within 29 hours a week.
I think, Ms. Huss, there's a couple of questions. Certainly the administrative recommendation, as far as, I'll try to answer some of the questions if I can recall. As far as the payroll assistant answering to a payroll assistant that is inaccurate, The payroll assistant will answer to the payroll specialist. So the person that exists right now, that's the title of the, unfortunately, I don't have that information at the moment, but the person who's in charge of payroll is the payroll specialist. This would be the payroll, I don't know what document that is to be.
This is the document that was attached to our reorg agenda, or not our reorg agenda, our July 27th, 2015 agenda of increases for unaffiliated staff for 2015-16. And that's what the positions were called. Payroll assistant was the top person at a significantly higher salary, and payroll clerk 8 hours a week, and health benefits clerk 4 hours per day, 5 days per week. And this was passed by the Board of Education on July 27, 2015. And I haven't seen a position description for a payroll specialist either. These position descriptions are supposed to be passed by the board.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have clarity on that document. I can just tell you the answer to your question is that the payroll specialist will be supervising the payroll assistant. I can also tell you that as far as the need for this position, the board did approve this position. This position has been filled for quite a number of months. We realize and recognize, and the board had combined both positions on the HR and the payroll side. We're very fortunate in that position has been working well. The person who's in that position resigned, and it is a need to fill the position.
3 months.
Absolutely, it could be 3 months. It could be 2 months. We can't control the will of an employee. But we could say that we highly recommend to the board that we fill this position. It looked like initially with your statement, you made it seem like it was a vacant or a new position. The board is filling a vacancy. I just want to be very clear to the board, this position exists, and you'll be filling a vacancy if you approve the recommendation tonight.
With all due respect, vacancies do not require the salary of somebody who previously filled the position. If this is a clerical position, there are numerous other clerical positions, both affiliated and unaffiliated, that are paid significantly less. And for somebody, because the other, excuse me?
Why is this an issue now, not 3 months ago?
Because we are refilling this position without any analysis of whether or not the previous incumbent, who lasted 3 months in the combined position, had a reason for leaving.
Mrs. Haas, Mr. Cohen, respectfully, you know what? You have your opportunity to say what you want to say with your vote when we put it to roll call. How's that? Well, I'm going to end for our own. I would like to move the meeting along.
Can I ask a point of reference real quick?
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Kruger.
You can go. I was just going to ask, we're meeting tomorrow. HR is meeting tomorrow, and the date of hire is April 4th.
But can I ask you, did the previous person have this position and salary?
Full-time and same salary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all. I just wanted a clarification that it wasn't.
With benefits.
Clarification, I voted against it when it came up.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're not
We have the
creating a new
opportunity to do
position.
so again.
Creating it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Continue to have
So,
ridiculous
can I have-
administrative expenses.
Can I have a motion to please approve item B7.4.1 on the action agenda?
We have a motion, we have a second, we're ready to vote.
All right. Mr. Mahmood, roll call.
Ms. Bogoshevsky? Yes. Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen? Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
No.
And Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Dr. Schiff, we are going to move on to
Joseph.
Sorry, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Excuse me. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions under the area of operations. Motion to approve financial reports, to approve the tentative budget as presented, to approve the health benefits waiver, approve the travel and related expense reimbursement resolution, to approve the capital reserve account withdrawal, to approve the non-public program instructional services, to approve the 2016-2017 Joint Transportation Services contract with Somerset ESC. And then I have an addendum, which would be, we have a donation of the cellular connection the Cellular Connection Bryant Parks has donated 10 boxes of school supplies, and we do appreciate his generosity. And finally, a settlement agreement. Yes, and we have an addendum C10, be it resolved that the board hereby affirms the superintendent's decision in the HIB matters SME-2015-2016-004 and HMS 2015-16-004.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items C1 through C10 of the action agenda, please?
So moved.
May I have a second? Second. Any discussion at this time?
I'd like to remove a couple of items.
Yes, Mrs. Haas?
C3, health benefit waiver.
Yes.
C10.
Yes.
C6, and C7.
Well, alrighty then. The Yankees must not be playing tonight. Let's see.
Say that again, Judy.
I just want to be clear, Mrs. Haas. C3, C6, C7, C10.
3, 6, 7, and 10.
Is that correct?
3, 6, 7, and 10.
10 is what you have to. Okay. So, what are we voting on?
C1 through C10,
Actually,
with the exception of...
and I'm going to take out C2. So,
Oh, my goodness.
we're going to vote on nothing, basically, or separate everything.
What did you pull out?
So, right now, the only thing that we're going to be voting on is C1, C8, and C9, and C4. Is there a C4? You know what? Let's just do it individually.
Fine.
I don't want to make a mistake. That would be my luck. So, all right.
C1, approve the financials.
Motion to approve item C on the action agenda.
So moved.
Second, please. Roll call, please, Mr. Roman.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky? Yes. Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yep.
Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Item C2, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second. All right. Any discussion? All right.
Okay.
Motion.
Ms. Bogoshevsky? Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Abstain.
Okay. And Mrs. Haley?
No.
Okay. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Item C3, can I have a motion to approve item C3?
So moved.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Mrs. Haas?
I'd like to know why the health benefit waiver this year is twice what it was last year and the year before.
Mr. Mahmood?
The,
I think it's
Obamacare, I don't know.
It's
Dr. Schiff?
the Chapter 78,
Yeah, Chapter
contributions. So this is, we're at the highest level of the Chapter 78 contribution. So each year, the amount that the board was paying in premium costs was offset by an increase in the amount of employee contributions. This year, fiscal year 17, the year coming up, we do not have another tier going up. So the entire increase above 2% is eligible for the waiver. That's the reason why.
And shouldn't it be the same as last year?
No, last year we actually increased to the final tier of the Chapter 78. So the offset to the board's cost increased last year because our employees paid a greater proportion of the healthcare costs. So we're only eligible for anything above 2% as indexed to the school employee health benefits plan. So we're bearing the full burden of the cost increase. Where in current year, we had another tier. There was an increase in the percentage that our employees were paying.
So then can we look forward to another doubling next year?
Only if healthcare costs double. So it's now at the point where, and this will be, part of this I'm sure will be discussions at the negotiating table, which we really are not going to get involved with here. But assuming all things being equal, we anticipate that healthcare will continue to increase in costs from one year to the next. We're estimating that fiscal year increase, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mahmood, for fiscal year 17 is 10%.
yeah.
So that's
Based
what-
on what?
Based upon our advice from our broker.
Do we have any other questions at this time?
So can I ask Mr. Mahmood, so there seemed to be some question about how, with your last remarks, Ms. Haas, maybe about how we arrive at that figure, since it's about costs that we're only estimating. How do we arrive at the 841,000? I know there's well, you can say.
Sure. The number for the waiver is indexed against the state health benefits increase. So we apply for it through the county office, and we index it against the state health benefits increase. In our particular case, because of Chapter 78, we're able to take out, as a waiver, the maximum. In this case, it's the 861,000.
So if let's give an example. If we had sent to the county, our broker tells us healthcare costs are going to go up 50% next year. What's the county going to do with a report like that?
Well, they will assess the waiver. We take an actual different waiver amount.
Would they?
Yeah.
They wouldn't send it back and say that's ridiculous?
Well, the county could certainly question an increase and ask for the broker's letter.
I'm a bad Perry Mason because you're not giving me the answer I want to hear. I want to hear that if we add something ridiculous, they'd send it back.
Of course.
They look at everyone's increases of what they are. If everyone was saying 10% and we were saying 50%, they'd send it right back to us.
We would, sometimes the county office would require, Mr. Gillette, a letter from the broker indicating what the potential is. So they do request that at times. It all depends on the review.
And we had a long discussion about this at Operations Committee, not in the last meeting, but in the previous one, about what happens if our estimates are wildly inaccurate, and then it gets
rejected.
It gets thrown back the next year, right? You can take less the next year.
Yes.
And if it's the other way, then there's more left on the
plate.
On the plate, because you can also bank healthcare waiver also. So it all averages, it all goes along year to year.
Yes.
See what I mean?
400 to 841 is not an average increase.
Right, because
78.
last year we had an increasing contribution. For the year pushing out, now next year, we're not going to have an anticipated increased contribution. The contribution level of employees is going to be, pending whatever else happens, about the same. Employees contribute in the aggregate about somewhere right around 20%. And that's going to probably remain, who knows? I don't even want to talk about it because we're in negotiation. But whatever it's going to be, this is how we're coming up with the estimate, whatever it's going to be.
But this year we're anticipating a 10% increase. What was our anticipated increase last year? Since you have your photographic memory and I don't.
What was it? It was right, but it wasn't rejected, and it was commensurate with the healthcare waiver that we asked for. So I guess it was right on whatever it was.
I thought it was 12. I thought it was around 12, but I could be wrong.
You thought it was what?
Around 12%.
That would be nice.
I could be wrong. I think last year was 12. Can I get a roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood?
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen? Yes. Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Abstain.
And Mrs. Haley?
No.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Mahmood.
No problem.
Can I have a motion to approve item C4 of the action agenda, please?
So moved.
Right.
I'm sorry, they went.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments at this time from the board? Seeing none, roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen? Yes. Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
I'd just like to make the comment that the final whereas statement is not a sentence.
We're in the middle of a
We'll
vote.
discuss it with our attorney, but I think it's still valid.
It's not. Find me the verb.
We're in the
Find me
middle
the
of a
action
vote.
verb.
We're in the middle of a
We
vote,
can't
Mrs. Haas.
take comments.
Okay.
We already had comments, so you have to vote
Then
yes
I'll
or no. or
vote
abstain.
no.
I asked for comments and questions.
We're
Yes,
We're in the
no,
middle of a
abstain.
vote.
No.
No? Got it. Ms. Haley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve item C5 of the action agenda, please?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Fast enough?
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood?
Surely. Mrs. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen? Yes. Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yeah.
And Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
May I have a motion to approve item C6 of the action
So
agenda?
moved.
Second. Any comments or questions?
We're on 6?
Yes.
C6.
Yay.
We pulled it out.
Okay, is that we're moving on?
Move on.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Abstain.
Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
May I have a motion to approve item C7
So
of the
moved.
action agenda? Second. Thank you. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Abstain.
And Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, sir. Can I have a motion to approve item C8 of the action agenda, please?
So moved.
May I have a second? Any comments or questions?
Thank you.
We would again like to thank Mr. Parks for his generous donation to our schools. May I have a roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood?
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen? Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yes.
And Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve item C9 of the action agenda, please?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Is this in our packet?
That's what I'm looking for.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, this was in.
I'm looking at it right now.
Hold on.
Okay.
I read it today.
Can I have a second, please?
Hold on.
We got Dana.
We have a second?
Yes,
Okay.
we got Dana.
Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, can I have a roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood?
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Abstain.
And Mrs. Haley?
One more.
Yes.
Motion passes.
C10 is the.
Yes.
addendum.
C10, Dr. Schiff, do you want to read that again, please, for me?
Be it resolved that the board hereby affirms the superintendent's decision in the the HIB matters, excuse me, entitled SME-2015-16-004 and HMS-2015-16-004.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve item C10 of the action agenda, please?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Ms. Santafonte?
Abstain.
Okay. Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Abstain.
Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so at this, I think we're done on the action.
Well, we have comments from the public.
But we're going to go to comments from the public at this time on old business.
It's not good to have Maria up here like after daylight savings time.
It is
Definitely
not.
hasn't slept.
Why is it not good to have me up here?
Because it's after
It's
daylight
always good to
savings
have
time,
you up
so you've
here.
lost an hour, so you
I
definitely
know.
haven't slept.
It's always good to have you here.
Maria DeLucia, 122 South Triangle Road. I'm actually up, I have a couple of things I'm up here for, but the one is, if we could have some clarification, I'm still getting questions on the fire day. And because it fell between the February 1st and the 15th, it was not covered under their calendar. There's still questions as to how it's being handled.
Of all the days that we missed
Yes.
on that calendar, that was the one.
So is
But
that being considered
Dr.
one of
Schiff.
our emergency snow?
It was just, yeah, we're going to have 2 days built into the calendar, and I believe the calendar
round
indicates that it's around the Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to, that's what we're going to.
There's still one more snow day left,
Correct.
and it indicates, so which day will it be that will, if we have no more snow days?
Friday of Memorial Day.
Right. It will be Friday,
Okay.
Memorial Day will be no school.
I
Nice.
thought we have 2 left. We have 2 left.
Of course, we
No,
can make
moved
it go to
two this
school
year.
and forget about it.
We close?
3 next year.
We only have one.
Oh, so we only have 2.
No, no school, yes,
around
school.
So we don't have 3 built in. Okay.
I'm asking because actually after the last day where we had to do a makeup day, I think it was within minutes, we received an email that when we would be making it up. And there really, I don't believe there's been any communication on
Yeah, I
this.
think we'll send out from the HR department, Mr. Volpe will send out a communication.
That would be
Make sure
helpful.
that we have clarification on that.
Because it doesn't need to be made up, it's
No.
covered under a snow day.
Correct, but
Oh.
because it's not, there was that section missing, there's still confusion.
Yeah, it was awkwardly worded possibly on the calendar. I acknowledge that.
It was.
And typically, we could get snow days in mid-March.
Oh, yes.
I know.
Stop it.
Don't say that.
Yeah, I was,
Don't say that.
Sorry about that.
We're done.
All right, and the other thing, I have been touting some of the achievements of our teachers and some of the things that we have done in our community, and I'd like to share a few more tonight with your indulgence. We had 10 teachers from Aris in the month of December and January that worked over 50 hours each to put on the Aughton Road Talent Show. It began with a Google form that did determine interest from the Aris students. These interested students were then contacted, and close to 50 acts performed at a given audition during before school hours. And then using rubric, teachers scored the acts, and in the end, 27 acts were chosen to star in the talent show. Dress rehearsals were also done. The week of the talent show, which took place during after school hours, and finally, the night of the show, teachers set up the stage, put up the decorations for the show, and the community enjoyed an hour and a half of entertainment. All proceeds, which were $2 per entry fee, were donated to Borough Safe. Congratulations to the Aris teachers. And at Woods Road, in celebrating the 100 days of school, they did a collection for the Somerset Regional Animal Shelter, and their goal was to collect 100 items. They far exceeded 100 items, and so the Somerset Regional Animal Shelter, I've been told, has a picture on their website with all the donations they received. Also, teachers at Woods Road School also participated in a Super Bowl collection in which they and their students collected over 700 cans for this Hillsborough Food Pantry. And just something, the staff at Hillsborough Elementary School went red for women, an American Heart Association event, and they one of the staff members organized the event, and they all donated money to wear red on that day, and they gave $255 in total to the American Heart Association for wearing red. So, just some of the many ways in which our staff members reach out and assist the community of Hillsborough. So,
thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you to everybody. We appreciate that greatly.
So moved.
No, not yet, Mr. Gillette. So at this time, do we have any old business from the board? No. All right. Seeing none, actually for informational purposes, we have enrollment, fire and crisis, and the suspension report attached for the board. At this time, I'd like to get a motion to approve, adjourn the meeting. You're messing me up. Do you have something to say? I do. Okay. I asked if anybody had any comments. Am I scaring you? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Madam President is scaring my
Okay.
friend.
No, I just want to wish everyone a happy and safe spring break.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you. Thank you. Spring break. Okay. Yeah, March Madness. Do not judge. Let's just finish this meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? So moved. May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Good meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh,